Hello, welcome to Free Jacks in 5, which gives you a greater understanding of the amazing people involved with the New England team in Major League Rugby. I'm Dallen, Stanford, former US Eagle and current World Rugby commentator, and we have a huge guest on this episode, incoming assistant coach for the Free Jacks, Mike Rogers. Firstly, congratulations, and so good to have you join the Free Jacks.
Hey, thanks, Dallen. And I think that's probably the most energetic introduction I've ever had. So, mate, I really appreciate that. Normally, it's being a Kiwi, we're pretty low key. So, hey, I feel welcome already.
Well, listen, we're excited to finally get you this side. Coming to America, firstly, have you been here before? What have you heard about MLR and the Free Jacks? Give us everything you know about the US.
Yeah, I have been fortunate enough to travel to the States before. I've done a couple of trips to the West Coast, took the kids to Disneyland a couple of years ago, been to Hawaii, and then also been to New York, and went up to watch the All Blacks play against Ireland and Chicago, the famous game that we lost, but probably more famous for the fact that the Cubs won the World Series for the first time in, I think, 108 years. So I learnt a hell of a lot about baseball over that 4 days. We flew in the day that they won, so watched the last game, which was obviously highly entertaining, at a little sports bar in Chicago, and met some awesome people that had obviously had a lot of heartache over that period, and also learnt about the curse of the goat. So been to the States a bit, mate, and really looking forward to getting back.
Oh, that's so great. And then have you caught any of the MLR action in New Zealand when you've been there?
Yeah, so I've coached a few guys that have played up in the MLR for various teams. So Jason Robertson, Dan Hollinshead and Fussy Fuatai, who are at the New York team, and also Joe Johnston, and before him, Liam Steele with the Free Jacks. So have a pretty good understanding of kind of the level of rugby, and I guess the direction that the game's heading in the States, which I think's, it's a little bit like a bit of a revolution. So I'm really keen to jump on board with that and give it my flavour, but at the same time respect the work that's been done, and yeah, can't wait to see the continued growth.
Yeah, Joe Johnson, the mechanic as he's known, he's been instrumental this past season here for the Free Jacks. So it's good. You're going to have to give us some more nicknames and some more spice later about him, But let's get into your coaching philosophy. How would you describe that?
Yeah, so my coaching philosophy, I like little acronyms and stuff like that. So it centres around the 3 C's for me, which is care, cause, and coach. So the first thing for me is the reason why I coach rugby is because I care immensely about people, and I really enjoy working with people. And that's there's plenty of other things probably that I could do in terms of career options, but I love coaching because it's really about the people and both the players and people in the organisation, and also obviously the fans as well. So for me, it's about creating connections with people and really understanding them and developing those relationships. So I think once we have that, then we're into really good territory around both development on and off the field, and also long-term relationships and basically knowing cool people. So I love that stuff. I love the relationship side of it. The second part of it's cause, which for me it means, what's our purpose or what's our shared vision. And I think it's a great opportunity with the Free Jacks because it's a young club, and there's a real opportunity there to develop a real cause. And for me, that's greater than winning. So winning's good fun. Like I coach rugby as well because I like to win, and I'm a highly competitive person. But for me, it has to be more than that. And I think there's a real unique opportunity here to develop that vision or cause for the club that is something that can endure for forever. And I think if you look at the great sporting franchises around the world, it's real clear and obvious what they believe in and what their purpose is, whether that's on or off field. So, and then the last one is obviously coach, which is the bit that people get a little bit fixated on, and that's all the technical, tactical stuff, which I'm huge on, and really have a mentality around physicality and competitiveness, and I think we can bring that to the Free Jacks. But I don't think you can coach anything until you've got those first 2 things right, in terms of a real care for your people and a common purpose. And I think once we nail that, we'll be in a really good spot.
Well, I can see why the Free Jacks have got you on board, and that's brilliant. All those elements you bring to the table, so vital and so important. I know the fans are going to enjoy hearing this episode as well. And let's just go touch on, your background personally. Where did you grow up, and tell us a bit about that, as well as, what sports did you enjoy, kind of outside of rugby as a youngster?
Mate, I grew up in a little town in the middle of the North Island called Taupo, which is where there's a big lake, and it's a cool place. It's a lot of things to do in the summertime in and around the lake, and then in the wintertime there's heaps of other cool sort of outdoorsy stuff that you can do as well. So I've got a real affinity with being in the outdoors and really love all that stuff like boating and fishing and hiking and that sort of thing. So I guess that's I think my mate's going to take the piss out of me for saying hiking because it's not something we actually say in New Zealand. But well, some people do, but it's a bit weird. So spending time in the bush probably more to the point. So that was kind of, I guess, my upbringing, and I live in a pretty awesome place called Mount Maunganui. I've been here for the last 17 years, which is a beachside. The only place I've been to outside of New Zealand that's similar is San Diego, but San Diego is probably on a little bit more of a scale to what we have here. So it gives you a bit of a feel for what the place is like. It's a cool beach sort of city, if you like. In terms of things outside of rugby, that's why I kind of had a bit of a chuckle at the beginning there, because I think for every kid growing up in New Zealand, or definitely more than, especially kids from my generation, there was really only one sport, and that was rugby. And I had some mates who played soccer, but they were really in the minority. It was, and most of them probably wish that they're rugby players as opposed to soccer players. That has changed a lot, obviously, these days, with probably a lot of American influence in terms of basketball. I think it's the largest participation sport for youth in New Zealand now, which is pretty awesome. But for me, it was rugby, and like every young kid, you had the ambition of playing for the All Blacks one day. Unfortunately, I fell several levels short of that. That's the way it goes. But mate, rugby's been in my blood probably since, I think, 1987 World Cup was my first real memory. I would have been 7 then. And that's my first memory of kind of rugby. Took over our country. And I guess from that day forward, it probably hasn't left my mind for a single day.
And that's why All Blacks and New Zealanders are so famous around the world. I do have a question, though, from Scotty. He wants to know who are the current Rugby World Cup holders?
Oh, mate, hey, listen, it's not England. And I'm really thankful that it's not England, and I congratulate my South African brothers for that. I actually watched that game in the Cobra Rugby Club in Malaysia. I was over there coaching a team in the Cobra 10s tournament, and I think the All Blacks lost the semi-final the day before we flew out, which was obviously a bit of a pill to swallow. And I was certainly supporting all the South Africans in the Cobra Rugby Club in Kuala Lumpur that day, for a number of reasons, but probably best that we don't go there.
It is rare that South Africa beats New Zealand in rugby, and it's rare, obviously, to win a Rugby World Cup. So it is kind of cool that New Zealand won it 3 times, South Africa won 3 times, and it's pretty cool you guys get to work together now. So let's switch gears. You talk about you as a young kid carving up. Now you have 3 kids. Why don't you tell us a bit about them?
Yes, I've got 3 kids. It's probably going to be the biggest challenge for me in taking up this role with the Free Jacks is spending time away from them. Like, I've done little stints overseas coaching and doing other business-related things, but never probably spent more than 6 weeks away from them, which is going to be it's going to be bloody hard. Like, let's face it, and it's probably the one thing that I'm concerned about most. But yeah, my 3 kids. Carter's 15. He's a rugby player. He's sporting a real big long mullet at the moment, which he loves, which I'm not kind of sure on, but he's been rocking that for about 15 or 16 months now, and it's almost halfway down his back. So that's cool. He's got a girlfriend in there, and they've been together for a while, and he's also an avid rugby player, and loves the game probably as much as I do. And my daughter Millie, she's 13. She plays netball. She's in her first year at high school, and absolutely loving that and all the challenges that I guess that go with that. And she's kind of taken that all in her stride, and she's probably the hardest working of the 3 kids in terms of her schoolwork. And I'm really proud for how well she's committed to that stuff this year, which has been great. And then the young guy, his name's Frankie. He's 9. I think he knows more about rugby than I do. So just to give you a bit of an insight, he sent me a message this morning, and he said to me, "Hey Dad, that red card was bullshit." This is a 9-year-old. I'm like, okay, that's probably not the greatest language. And I said, yeah, mate, you're right. So he's referring to the red card on the weekend of Geordie Barrett, who's one of his favourite players. And he said, I do not know what the TMO was seeing. And I kind of agree with that as well. So it's quite cool. When I was coaching the Bay of Plenty Steamers, he'd ask me around the team selection every week. He'd always have an opinion, especially on the backs, because he probably thinks he's a bit more of a back than he is a forward. So, and I guess I was saying this the other day, is that he's still at that age. Like he of the three of them, he's the one who said that he's probably not that keen for me to be away, and I can understand that. And I put that down to the fact that I still think he thinks that I'm cool, and I know that the other two definitely don't think I'm cool. So that's probably why he's going to miss me, is he quite likes hanging out with me, where the other two are probably a bit more take it or leave it. They've got to that age where they probably hang out with their mates.
Well, listen, we have to do a segment that can include your youngest, and it'll be his review once he's watched a Free Jack game on the weekend. He can talk about the backline if he prefers, just to give his analysis of the game, and we can get him on as well. We'll get him set up on the Zoom. I think that could be really fun and really cool.
Yeah, and my oldest Carter messaged me yesterday. He'd watched a MLR game yesterday with San Diego played somebody, and he said to me, "Oh, you need to sign the San Diego 7." And I said, "Oh, who's that?" And he even knew his name. I can't even remember what he said. He said,
"Sharp. You have a good rugby family there." Yeah. Who's playing? Who's over?
I said, "What's his name?" And he said, "Sam Wu Ching."
Oh, Wu Ching. Sam Wu Ching. Yes.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure he'll be locked up, but maybe we've got to look into that.
I like it. This is a family affair here. Let's also go rewind it back then, so after your playing days, is that how you got involved in coaching, or what was your segue or pathway into that side of the game?
Yeah, I guess I kind of always thought that I'd end up coaching, but it happened quite quickly. So I played club rugby for a local team here called Tauranga Sports, and the team was like really successful. We won quite a lot of championships. In 2009, I finished playing, and then in 2010, the incoming coach, there's a new coach, Ryan Dunnett, who's actually coaching over in Canada at the moment. Good man. He asked me to come on board and help him out and be the forwards coach. So it was like literally a transition from one year to the next. And I found that really challenging for two reasons. One, I was really close to the players, and that most of those guys were my mates that I'd played with for a number of years. So that made things hard. And secondly, I thought I knew everything there was to know about rugby. And I found out real quick that I actually knew nothing, and that coaching was a totally different ball game to playing. And I gained an appreciation for the amount of hard work that goes into things from coaches. And, I made some big mistakes over those first few years in terms of, for me, playing was really about winning and mates. And I wanted coaching to be about winning and mates for me as well, but it was different. And probably the winning thing was put at the front when the winning obviously should be put more in the back seat, and you take care of the relationships and the purpose of why we're there. And then the winning kind of takes care of itself. So, and that's how I got into it. And I spent 6 years coaching my club team, and we managed to win a couple of titles over that time. And there were some real low points, and there were some real high points. And probably the highest point was 2015, where we beat a really good Te Puke team, and both teams had a number of Super Rugby players playing for them, and we beat them in the final. And I'll never forget this. We're on the bus coming back from Te Puke, which is about 20, 30 minutes out of our city where we live, and the whole bus is full with our families and our kids. And there's actually no alcohol on the bus, which was pretty uncommon probably. And everybody was singing the team song, including the partners and the kids and the families, which I just thought really encapsulated what we wanted to achieve there, which was we wanted to win, but we wanted to win in a way that involved our family and our people. And I'll never forget that. It was awesome.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that story. And for you coming this side, particularly because our Free Jacks fans want to know, what areas of the game are your favorite to coach, where your expertise lie?
So I'm looking after the forwards, so set piece work, so scrum line out, and also the defence. Most of my experience at a professional level in New Zealand has been coaching the forwards, so the scrum, the set piece type work, and the collisions. And whilst I really love that stuff, and it's where I've cut my teeth, the area of the game that I'm most passionate about is defence. And my defensive philosophy is we defend to score tries. So for me, I think defence in itself, in terms of the word, has real negative connotations. So I think it means, we want to stop them from scoring. We want to defend our own line. It's very retreat focused. So rugby for me is an invasion game, and we invade the opposition's territory through both our attack and our defence. And I'm really looking forward to implementing some things around real heavy line speed, forcing lots of mistakes, and scoring lots of tries off the back of real positive intent from our defensive game, because that creates really exciting rugby for for both MLR and the Free Jacks fans, in that we should start seeing a lot of tries off 1 or 2 phases. And I think that's the thing that when I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about rugby, I'm not thinking about scrums and lineouts, which I also love. And I know some of my mates and some players that I've played probably don't believe me on that. I'm actually thinking about how we can coach defence to be a lot more assertive and go and score tries off the back of that. So I can't wait to bring that to the Free Jacks.
Magic words from Mike. I like that as well, So last 2 questions for you before we let you go. Let's talk about some of your goals that you have coming up here in the US and working with the Free Jacks. Do you have some off the field goals as well as on the field goals?
When I was asked this question the other day, it's probably raised a couple of eyebrows. So probably from TK, because he was probably thinking, oh man, I didn't really want you to say that. My goal of coming to the Free Jacks isn't that we win the competition in 2022. Like, I'd love that. That'd be cool. It'd be awesome. But my goal of coming to the Free Jacks is that we set the organisation up as one that has a legacy. And what I'm really passionate about is being involved with teams in the long term and seeing them thrive, prosper, and then leave them in a really good position to continue, being there or thereabouts. So not necessarily winning every year, but if you ever look at the Crusaders in New Zealand Rugby, for instance, they don't win every year. They've had a really good run lately, but over the last 25 years, they've won more than half of the competitions.
Yeah.
And but they've been in the top 4 virtually every year. And so I think that's a better judge of success or measure of success, is that we're actually there competing at the business end of the year every year. And in order to do that, it's a lot different than just setting out to win the competition next year. So if we wanted to just win the competition next year, we could recruit a really good team, mostly get guys that are only going to hang around for 1 year. We could put together a really good plan in terms of what was suitable for that player group, and we could go out there and give it a go. The problem with that is the following year we'd probably be back to square one again, and that just doesn't excite me. What excites me is about building a program that people want to be a part of. They don't want to leave. Players from around the States and Canada want to come and play for us because they love the way that we go about our work. We develop people, we care about them, and we achieve on-field and off-field success. So for me, mate, that's what it's all about. Is I guess when it comes time to leave the Free Jacks at some point, which will always happen, that the organisation's in a lot better position than it is now. And I think it's in a great spot at the moment. So that really motivates me. And I was actually playing around on my phone this morning, looking at, what is a Free Jack? And I know that the term has reference to basically the American Revolution. And that just sits, when you start thinking about who we are and what we want to be, I think there's an opportunity to be the American Revolution in terms of the way that rugby's played, the way that it's seen, the way that we engage with our people, our fans, our people that are involved in our organisation. Like I said before, that's the sort of stuff that gets me excited, is actually being part of something that's a lot bigger than me, probably a lot bigger than the player group that we have right now. That gets me pretty pumped up.
You're getting me excited this side, creating the legacy. Exactly. It's so important, And that brings me then to the fans. They're going to be tuning in and watching this. Do you want to give them a direct message from yourself?
I guess if I go back to that bus trip thing that I talked about earlier, and I can still kind of remember sitting there and seeing those people's faces and seeing the joy on their faces. And it was only a real small group of people, but that was still pretty cool because they had real meaning. And so I guess my message to the Free Jacks fans is we want to be the people's team. We want to connect really well with you. We want you to be part of it, and we want you to be proud of us. We're going to work bloody hard on that, but that's not going to come easy. But I think if when we reflect on all of our behaviours or actions, and we can actually look our fans in the eye and see that they're getting joy out of what we're doing, I think then we're doing a bloody good job. So ultimately, that's what we want, is we want the people to be proud of us, and we'll give it a bloody good nudge to ensure that happens.
Absolutely brilliant. We'll see you in a neighborhood right here in Boston soon, Mr. Rogers. And we want to thank you for joining us. As they say here in New England, let's ride.
Thanks, Dallen. Cheers, mate.
You've got to give me a let's ride and then get your fist pumping in the air. Okay, because I'll cut it
really?
like
This is just not what we do in New Zealand, mate.
No, you don't?
Let's ride.
There it is. You did it. Easy peasy,